Welcome back to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm David Dodge, and I will be your host today. In today's episode, we are going to talk about how rentals can create wealth. We all want financial freedom and security, although very few of us have actually been taught how to build long-term wealth while earning an income. Well, guess what, guys? I'm here to teach you exactly how you can increase your income and build wealth fast. Rental properties are a foolproof way of achieving these goals while also allowing you to pay fewer taxes, invest more of your hard-earned money, and ensure a financially secure future for you and your family. Guys, let's learn how to work smarter, not harder. Let's learn how to take control of our finances and make our money work for us. If you are here today, you have likely accepted the fact that nobody can become rich and stay wealthy by just working and trading time for money. It's time to shift your focus from short-term gains to long-term wealth creation. I'm David Dodge, and on this show, I will teach you how to build wealth and create cash flow, all while paying less in taxes. Let's get started, guys. So today we're going to talk about how rentals can create wealth. And there's so many ways that rentals can create wealth. The first thing I love about rentals is we're able to acquire rentals if we use the BRRRR method, which is my specialty and my favorite thing to do and my favorite strategy in real estate. But we're able to acquire rental properties with none of our own money, right? We're essentially allowing leverage to come in and help us acquire an asset with other people's money. You see, I buy all of my rental properties with private or hard money loans. I borrow the purchase and I borrow the rehab, and I pay cash for the properties at closing. I never use my own money. I always borrow the money to buy rentals, all right? Now, the beautiful thing about this is it allows me to go do 10 or 15 or 20 of these simultaneously. That may sound crazy, but yes, I actually have 15 rentals right now that's somewhere in the BRRRR process. Either I'm trying to buy it and I have it under contract, or maybe I'm in the middle of rehabbing it, or maybe it's sent over to the property management team and they're leasing it, or maybe it's been leased already and we're waiting for a refinance, right? So with rentals, we can create wealth by using other people's money, and we're not limited to just doing one at a time. It's a business that's very, very, very easy to scale. So number one, we can create wealth by buying assets without using any of our own money or little to none of our own money. Now, for those that are listening that don't know the difference between an asset and a liability, let me tell you the difference. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket every single month. And if you own something that you think is an asset and it's not putting money into your pocket every single month, I have terrible news for you. It is not an asset. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So if you have a plane or a boat or an RV or a camper or a jet ski or a motorcycle, these things are not assets, my friends. These are liabilities because they cost you money to own them. They cost you money to operate them. They cost you money to store them or manage them. They cost you taxes to own them in some cases, and you probably have to insure these things that you might think are assets, when in reality, they are liabilities. Everything you own that does not put money into your pocket is essentially a liability. And that's why I love rental properties, because they are assets. They pay me to own them. So number one, you have leverage, which allows you to buy and control and add these assets to your portfolio with little to no money. Number two, they are assets, which means they are going to pay you to own them. Now, let's break that down really quick. When you own an asset and it pays you to own it, how does that work? Well, you go buy a property, you rent it out, and you are going to collect more rent than it costs you to own it. So if you buy a property and it rents out for, let's say, $1,500 a month, and you only have $1,100 a month in expenses, well, that's a $400 surplus every single month that it's rented. That $400 is what we refer to as cash flow. And cash flow is the most beautiful thing, because if you get good at creating cash flow, you can achieve time freedom and you can achieve financial freedom. You are essentially getting paid while you sleep. So that's why I love rental properties. So leverage is number one. Number two is the cash flow, because these are assets. Number three is it's good debt. Now, I know there's probably some people out there that are thinking, well, I don't want to get into debt and own this property. That seems risky. Well, you are going to have to manage this property, or you can hire a property manager to help you do that. That's going to come with an expense, right? But the cool thing is you are creating debt that I like to consider good debt. It's not bad debt. So what's the difference between good debt and bad debt? Good debt is debt that somebody else is going to pay off for you, whereas bad debt is debt that you have to pay off. So good examples of bad debt would be buying that boat or that plane or that RV, right? Or that jet ski. I love that example. If you're buying these and you're financing these things, you're not paying cash, you have bad debt. You have to pay that back yourself. You have to go trade your time for money and make these payments. Well, with rental properties, somebody else is paying off this debt. Those are the tenants. The tenants are the ones that are paying off the debt. And that's an amazing reason to get into a lot of good debt, because over time, somebody else is paying that debt off for you. So we talked about leverage, we talked about cash flow, we talked about the good debt. Guys, there is more reasons why rentals will create wealth. All right, next is one of my favorites. It's actually tax benefits. And there are immense tax benefits, massive tax benefits by owning real estate. You see, you are able to depreciate a property every single year on your taxes for every single property you own. And you can depreciate it, which essentially is a phantom expense. It goes into your taxes as if it was money that you had to spend, even though you didn't have to spend any money. And that depreciation will allow you to reduce your taxable income. And if you are a full-time real estate investor like me, you can even offset other income, which is amazing. I barely pay any taxes, which is so crazy, but here's the coolest part about it. It's legal. It's all legal. And that's the most amazing thing. So the tax benefits are phenomenal. Now, also with real estate, rental real estate specifically, if you own it for a long enough period of time, it should appreciate. Now, if your time horizon is, let's say, a month or 6 months, you may not see appreciation. But if you have a long-term mindset, like I do, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, maybe even 30 or 40 years, in theory, the properties that you buy and own are going to appreciate, especially with our current times of inflation. I believe 2021 was about 6.8% inflation. And what that means is that everything is going up. The cost to buy everything is getting higher. And if you buy real estate and wait, don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait, over time, it will appreciate. So not only are you getting appreciation on the value of your real estate, your rentals, but you also on your taxes get to depreciate them, which means you have that phantom expense. So it's like a double whammy. You're appreciating them because they're going up in value, while you're simultaneously depreciating them on your taxes, which is really just on paper. And it's a double whammy, all right? Guys, last but not least, how rentals can create wealth. And this is probably my favorite, literally my favorite thing about real estate in general, all right? You do not pay tax when you create wealth. You only pay tax when you create income. So if you are creating, let's say, $300,000 or $500,000 worth of wealth in the terms of equity by buying properties at discounts and rehabbing those properties and renting them out and refinancing them, that's the BRRRR method, that's what I like to do. And let's say you do this to a property and you create $30,000 worth of extra value. You captured $30,000 worth of equity and you go and you refinance that property and you pay back your lenders and hopefully you have none of your own money invested into this deal. You don't have to pay taxes on that $30,000 worth of equity that you captured. You only pay taxes when you have an income or you're creating income, right? So that's the beautiful thing. My goal is to create $300,000 to $500,000 a year in wealth because it doesn't increase the amount of taxes that I pay. So another way that we're gonna be able to create wealth, and this is kind of a couple of these things mixed together, but whenever we're getting the cash flow, which was the first or second thing I talked about, the cash flow is actually, when it comes to taxes, it's considered passive income. It's income that we didn't have to trade our time for. In fact, the asset itself, the property itself, generated the income by having a tenant there. So not only are we creating additional income over our expenses, which is our cash flow, but we are also paying less in tax on that cash flow than we would if we traded our time for money. You see, rental properties are literally the best way to create wealth. You have cash flow. You have debt that somebody else is paying off. You use leverage when you buy it and when you refinance it. I don't like using my money to buy any property. None of them. You have massive tax benefits on the cash flow being taxed less than earned income, as well as the ability to depreciate the property on paper every year on your taxes, all while the property over time will appreciate in value. Now, appreciation of your assets and your rentals is not something that I ever factor in to my numbers when I'm buying it. It's always icing on the cake. I don't bank on the appreciation. But the cool thing is if you have a long enough time horizon, like I mentioned, 5, 10, 15, maybe 30 or even 40 years, it's almost impossible for these properties that you're buying today to not be worth more, especially because we have inflation, right? So again, it's not something that I'm banking on when I buy properties, but I know that over a long enough time horizon, I also get to take advantage of that appreciation. So rental properties can create wealth in so many different ways. But the best thing is I'm not spending my own money to add these rental properties, these assets to my portfolio. I'm borrowing the money, not only to buy it, but also to rehab it, and you can too. And then you rent that property out, or you do like me and you hire property managers that manage the leasing and the tenants, and they help you with that. And then you go and you talk to a local bank or a local credit union, and you refinance that property, which pays back that private lender for the purchase. It pays them back for the rehab. It pays back the holding costs. It often pays back the interest that I owe them to borrow it in the first place. And the result is that I get to add an asset, something that adds money to my bank account or my pocket every single month. So I'm adding an asset, and I'm using little to no money, ideally no money, to add that to your portfolio. You can create wealth, you're not taxed on that wealth, and you can create income that's taxed even lower, all while over the years, the amount of debt on that property is being paid off and reduced every single month by somebody else, and over a long enough horizon, the value of that property is increasing ever so little every single year. It's amazing. I love rental properties, guys. I love it. So the conversation continues over on wholesalinginc.com. Go over there and check it out. Thanks for listening, and get out there and buy some assets.